Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan. We're going to preview an NFC East game, the first NFC East showdown of the year between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. It's the Turnpike Tussle, as we like to call it. And I think I'm used to this, Adam, with I think Dallas the last few years where the Eagles have played. No, last year they played in week 3, but there have been some years where they played Dallas twice, like really late in the season.
Yeah.
I know last year they played the Giants in the middle of the season, then late in the season. It's just so weird to see an Eagles-Giants game round 1 this late and then again a couple weeks later.
The really cool thing is that because the Giants are better than people expected, these games mean something. Yeah, actually. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Dallas game will mean something. There's no doubt it'll mean something. It depends who it'll mean it for, but it'll mean something to either Dallas or Philly or both. And then this game has a ton of meaning for the Giants. A ton.
Yeah.
And obviously for the Eagles, because somehow the Vikings continue to win. So yeah, this I was not expecting this. I'd like the over under start the season was 7.5. I gave them 8. I mean, they're 7-4-1. I mean, they choked that game last week. They really should have won.
Yeah. And listen, I had a friendly bet with a friend of mine who covers the Giants. That in the New York media that he thought the Giants were going to be a 5-6 win team. Understandably, why he thought that. I actually thought with their schedule and some of the coaching additions, I thought they would be better. Now, you said the over/under going in the season was 7.5. I thought it was lower than that. Was that what it was?
It was, but I just remember.
You're right.
Yeah, it was 6.5, then it was 7.5. The coaching is superior there. They don't have a very good roster. Folks, when we go over this, and we got some great stuff. If you felt we had some good stuff with the Tennessee game, we got some great stuff here. And I could tell you, their roster at receiver is so bad. I don't know how they're as competitive as they are, man. Coaching could only take you so far. When you don't have the personnel, defense is interesting. They've had a lot of injuries there. It's we got a lot of stuff here. I pull my hair out when I look at their personnel. I'm like, how the hell are they doing this?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because they're 7-4-1, so they've already hit that over on the 6.5. I think I told my friend I thought they were going to win 8 games this year just because of the schedule and the slight improvements, and I thought some of the minor things would make go a big way, especially with the coaching staff. But as they sit here, Adam, at 7-4-1, coming off a tie. You look at their next 5 games, and it might be a struggle for them to get to 8. Of course, they got to play the Eagles this Sunday. The Commanders, they just tied, so they have no proof yet that they can beat them. Vikings are going to be tough at Minnesota. And then the last 2 games are Colts-Eagles. Now, I mean, they can beat the Colts. I have some faith in that. But if you were to say the Giants are going to be 7-4-1 with 5 games to go, and they're going to struggle to get that 8th win, it's very possible they will.
And if that game in Week 18 at Philly if the Eagles need that game, the Giants are in major trouble, folks. You just can't. This is one of the head scratching. This team having 7 wins. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
I just there's some things that are baffling this season. Russell Wilson's regression is ridiculously bad, and the Giants overachieving like they have now. Like you said, their schedule's incredibly difficult. They could lose 4 out of the last 5 games and not make the playoffs. But if you're a Giants fan. And I know on our show when the Eagles play the Giants, we get a ton of traffic from Giant fans. So welcome, folks. We'll give you some good stuff today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll give you good stuff today, and then of course we'll give you even better stuff on Sunday, starting at 10 a.m. We'll be at Rivers Casino. Myself, Adam, Greg Cosell, former Eagles wide receiver Jason Avonte. 10 a.m. till noon at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. We will preview the game like we always do for 2 full solid hours of X's and O's and breakdown. And then, of course, if you want to come see, and we've had people come see the show lately. It's been really cool to watch our audience grow. If you want to stick with us, we've got our final watch party of the year at Rivers Casino afterwards. So Adam and I will be there in the sportsbook, entertaining, giving the breakdowns, giving away some really cool prizes, including we've got some Eagles logoed watches from our sponsors at
Game Watch.
Game Watch. Yeah, Game Watch. Apologies there. GameWatch.com. These are really nice. If you watched last week's show, we presented them to the camera. I mean, these aren't like some plastic little what do you call those little 25-cent machines that you get? These are real
Gumball
watches,
machine.
really nice,
No, they're
beautiful. Yeah,
beautiful.
not no
Yeah.
gumball machine watch,
Yeah.
right? They're really nice, and the logo is perfect. And so we've got a couple of those to give away too if you come on down. And then of course afterwards we'll do the show probably around 4:30 with Trey Thomas, Inside the Birds post game live. Adam, myself, and Trey Thomas. So there's always a lot of stuff going on. I hope everybody caught the latest Q&A. I thought that Adam, I know you we talked about it a little bit. There's a really good breakdown on the last Q&A of some of the great things the Eagles did both offensively and defensively against the Titans, and just sort of getting Q&A's vision of where this team is at right now. They both have been, I thought, really balanced and measured as they should be as former, although it's hard sometimes for former athletes. I think that there are some that we watch that are either overly positive or overly negative. They struggle to find that middle objective. I think Q&A do it better than anybody.
There's one guy on the YouTube comments that says Avonte is particularly critical of Hurts, like over the top. I don't find that at all. I don't. The guy played the game. Okay,
Yeah.
he coached actually 2 years ago for the Eagles. He's
Right. And by the way, the last few weeks, whenever Jason and Q have talked about air, like you asked me the other day, where do you think at this stage
Yep.
Jalen Hurts could improve, right? And I said, well, there's probably this little bit or this, but it's nitpicky. Jason and Q have both been saying they're trying to give everybody analysis, but so when you're talking about a guy who's an MVP candidate and what he could do better, of course it's nitpicky. They've been saying it's nitpicky. It's just the nature of the business we're in to say what's good, but also to kind of try to look ahead and say what could be better. And I think those guys do a really good job of it. And Jason has talked about playing with McNabb, which is, a great measuring stick. He's also talked about playing with Cam Newton. Go ask Jason Avant how he thinks Jalen Hurts compares to Cam Newton, because it's easy to just kill Cam now, but at this time about 7 or 8 years ago, Cam was having a Jalen Hurts year and was on his way to contending for an MVP also. So Jason caught him on the tail end though, and he's had some really interesting observations with that one. And I think Jason played with Alex Smith for a little bit when he went over to Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken.
That would be it's possible. Okay.
Yeah, 2014 or no. Hold on. Chip's first year was what? I think it was either 15 or 16.
Chip was canned. Chip was canned during the late in the 15 season.
Right, and Jason had already been off the team by then, so he was on the Panthers. I think the 2015 Panthers and then Chiefs, because he asked for his release and went to the Chiefs.
Do we ever talk to Jason about Chip? I can't remember.
Yeah, well, he's talked about Chip a lot on Q&A.
Right, but just when
wonderful things to say about him, by the way. No,
I can't remember though when we would interview Jason or whatever before the Q&A show started. I can't even remember if we ever talked to him about it, because there's certain parts. Because he did say, like, as soon as Chip got there, things started to change a little bit. Obviously, because Jordan Matthews was immediately when they drafted, they put him in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
But that was certainly an interesting time. The Chip Kelly years, no question about it.
Yes, yeah. I have a vision of doing a bigger, expansive thing for Inside the Birds on the Chip Kelly year. It's just like our own sort of 30 for 30 type.
Who can we get
examination into it?
Yep, I would love to.
I don't want to give away all the blueprint. We got competitors listening too, so I don't want. I don't want to give everything away. We discussed a little bit of the vision. We'll go on with it.
All right, I was just going to say I don't even remember us discussing it over the years. To be honest with you.
Yeah, no, we've had a couple, but I'm sensitive to good ideas getting out there in cyberspace before we get the chance to do it.
There you go.
I think everybody can understand that. All right, so Q&A, yeah, and then Patreon. You want to be on board with us on Patreon? Go to patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. Get your extra bonus podcast 2 per month, including a Ask ITB live stream, and then of course we do a Chalk Talk series. A former NFL GM coming soon. People have started guessing on who it's going to be. I kind of enjoy that.
Not Bill Poling. We've had Bill on before. No, it's someone. Well, the only hint we'll give you is we've never had this guy on before.
Right.
The guy was he was successful.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. 2 more hints and you guys would all get it. No one got Mark Trestman. I love it. No one got Trestman.
No one got that. All right.
So yeah. So that would be. By the way, every Wednesday also for Patreon subscribers. Mm-hmm. We've got our chat on our Discord channel on the general area, and it's always archived. You just go in there, you can see the thread.
Yeah, you got great questions yesterday, Wednesday. I mean, that was fantastic. Good stuff.
So we'll keep doing it.
All right. Let's talk about the injuries to start off with. So the first thing we should say is that Avonte Maddox was activated into the 21-day practice window, but that doesn't mean he's on the 53-man roster. For those who
Right.
wonder why the injury report comes out and Avonte's not on it, it doesn't mean he's out there full participating. You don't know because he's not technically on the 53-man, so they don't have to. Well, they wouldn't anyway. Put him on the injury report. So he's got the hamstring. Any insight into that, Adam?
Yeah. So he talked to the media and he said he started running on a treadmill last week.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't really tell whether he's ready, although he feels good. He feels fine. He doesn't know because that's not the same thing. He doesn't really know whether he'll be able to play or not until he goes through practice this week. So let's put it this way. If he doesn't play this week, barring any kind of setback, it's almost certain to play next week against Chicago. Right. So this is great. Look, one thing I do want to give the Eagles credit for this, because for those of you who have been with us since 2018 when we started, we'll tell you the truth. We crushed their medical staff for some stuff where, look, they clearly had problems. A lot of agents came to us and gave us some information where they were not happy with the way players were taking too long to come back. We outlined the Darren Sproles stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We had a pretty strong exclusive scoop there on his grade 2 hamstring strain, I think was 18, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And look, boy, not only are they doing a great job here, they're timing it so well. It's like, okay, so you have to make a decision pretty quickly. You have to kind of get a feel for, okay, how long is this injury going to take?
Right.
Because you don't want to do, okay, I'll give you an example. Marcus Lattimore for the Saints. I think he's missed 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not, okay, I don't want to crush the Saints medical staff. What I was told, they thought he was going to be back weeks ago. It's taken him longer, but I don't think he had surgery on his abdomen. It's just taken him longer to come back. And sometimes teams wait to put players on the injury on IR because they think that the guy will come back maybe. But they've done so well smartly. They go, okay, you know what? Let's put him on this week. He just got hurt. We think we can get him back within 4 or 5 weeks, and they've nailed it so far. It's not easy to do that. There's a little gamesmanship and forecasting, and they've done a great job with it.
Speaking of gamesmanship, even though you just credited the Eagles for really not messing around.
We criticize them by waiting at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that's true. They do some things. I find it highly interesting that Jordan Davis is not at all on the injury list as far as not even limited or just anything. Nothing. Even though in the Tuesday press conference with the coordinators, Jonathan Gannon said, because people saw it, people who cover the game saw it, people who watch the TV copy can sometimes see him getting off the field, that the ankle was biting on him and he was limping a little bit. So again, I mean, different teams, different sort of things like ribs, but like I was always under the understanding that if you're being treated for something, even if it's minor, if you're getting a treatment, you need to be on the injury report. So without Jordan Davis with him not being on the injury report has to make me assume he's not being treated. So that seems fishy to me when you're telling me that your high ankle sprain that you're recovering from is still biting you, that you're just going home and, plopping your leg up on the couch.
Well, a couple things here. So I saw it. I saw the coaching tape. He collapsed. He basically, he pointed at his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he had a spasm in the ankle because that does happen.
Yep.
But he did tell the media last week he was feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
I give him credit. See, in a way, it's good. It's not that they're doing this purposely, but the fact that he's not on the injury report. By the way, a high ankle sprain cannot heal in 4 weeks. It's literally impossible.
Right.
It's you're stretching the ligaments. You're tearing them on your high. Your
minor
ankle.
tears. Yeah.
It's usually a 6 to 8 week injury, but you could come back as early as 4 or 5. But you're not going to be right. Now he only played 6 snaps on defense, 7 on special teams. We'll see. Not that they needed him to. I think, did he not come back for a snap or two late? Am I wrong about that? Did I see 90 back there? Late?
I don't think I can't remember. Yeah. Honestly, he played so few snaps. I thought the one where you're talking about where he came off the field and pointing at, after he went to the ground, I thought that was his last snap, but I could be wrong.
So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. But I got to tell you, their rotation is so good on the defensive line. We'll get into the injuries in a second. This is exactly why you signed those 2 guys. This is what happened in 2017. we'll see if they get the Super Bowl, but I'm starting to get that feeling like there's just something about this team, the camaraderie between the coaches and the players and the respect that they have for each other. This team in ways is younger, but
Mm-hmm.
the older guys have good, they're young at heart, Slade and Bradbury. And by the way, another revenge game here. It's comical. We'll get into some stuff with that, but they got it going on right now. That Tennessee game was quite the thrashing.
Right.
And now they face a team that is offensively challenged, but their defense, friends, is something else. The Giants, the way that they play their scheme.
Right. So as for other guys who are injured or not, off the injury report this week are Devontae Smith, Zach Pascal, Patrick Johnson. They look good to go.
Yep.
Quez Watkins, I thought it was a good sign that on Thursday he was he limited or what's the, yeah,
they're
he
all
was limited,
but
right?
yeah, in fact,
Yeah.
only 3 players listed in the injury report this week. I don't count the rested players; those don't count. Are the 3 guys who got hurt? Watkins, White should play, and Sean Bradley.
Right. He was out of practice on Thursday. Sean Bradley.
That's not a good sign. So we'll see what happens later today with this hamstring injury, and obviously, the kid DeCecco wrote the piece on Christian.
Christian Ellis. Yep,
Luther Ellis' son. Yeah, who
it was a great story.
What a game he had! Holy smokes!
Yeah. By the way, Andrew wrote some really good stuff on both Britton Covey, special teams, Christian Ellis. I hope everybody's going to InsideTheBirds.com throughout the week and checking on all the great stories. And of course, Adam's power rankings. There's a new number 1. They play in Philadelphia.
How could I not? I mean, how the hell could I should be firing myself if I don't have the Eagles at 1.
Well, it's funny you bring that up.
Okay.
And we're not going to talk about it here. This is an Eagles-Giants preview, but I have built it in to the pregame show script that we have to have a discussion, which we normally stray from. On the pregame show, we like to be different in that we like to stick to X's and O's.
Sure.
We don't do locker room talk. We don't do this guy said this about that guy. But I do have to ask you, Greg and Jason, sort of an analytics-based question about ESPN's power rankings. Because they don't agree with it's not, to me, it's not what the rankings, you can argue with that, but rankings are rankings, whatever.
Sure.
The numbers that go with these are like the odds of winning the Super Bowl. I got some major questions that we have to hash that out on the pregame show.
See, when I was there, I'd pick all we would have a picks contest, sort of like all the analysts and reporters would turn their picks in. But we didn't have anything to do with the power ranking. So I just saw something on Twitter. Maybe Brandon Graham commented too, like what did he say, a Cowboys fan?
I think by this point the whole world has all of Philadelphia has weighed in on it.
Yeah. So that I like you said, I don't know how that they would come to that, because the Eagles hit a lot of metrics in terms of play calling on offense for analytical data.
Right.
Right.
That's where my biggest confusion. Like, you can haggle anybody's the best, anybody's the worst, but when you start putting percentages and they look a lot out of whack, you got to question that. So we'll get into that in the pregame show.
The only thing I come up with where you and I don't agree, because the Kansas City special teams are way better than the Eagles. It's not even like it's like the different zip code.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, that would worry me. Although, look, Covey had a breakout game. We'll see if he can continue this.
Yeah, that's all small sample right now. They had one good game.
Exactly, and their coverage was excellent. We'll see if this can continue, because that's the thing here. You don't want specials to ever cost you a game, and boy, you don't want that to rear its ugly head in the playoffs, because they got everything else going on, but this is the one issue.
That's correct.
We'll see what happens game to game.
All right, this will be the fourth and final. It should be the fourth and final game for Dallas Goedert on injured reserve. That would mean he's eligible to be activated into the practice window next week and hopefully ready to play the following game. Who the hell are they playing? Why can't I?
Chicago next week.
Think who they're playing. Chicago, right? Bears game, which is suddenly kind of an interesting game.
Yeah.
So look forward to seeing what that happens with Dallas. But of course, the Eagles one more game without their best tight end. As far as transactions went, the Eagles are literally having like garage sales every week with their practice squad. Like, guys are coming, guys are going, guys come back, guys leave. The latest is that they since our last pod that dropped Wednesday morning and they cut 3 guys off, they have brought back Roderick Johnson, the offensive tackle, and Marvin Wilson, the defensive tackle, to the practice squad, and also Andre Shasher, Ray is
Oh yeah.
also back
Okay.
on the practice squad. Now, he has
Yeah.
been elevated 3 times already. He cannot be elevated anymore. So for him to play in a regular season game for the Eagles from now to the end of the season, he would have to be re-signed to the 53-man roster. However, there are an unlimited amount of elevations once you reach the practice squad and everything. Once you reach the playoffs, and it all goes back to zero. So theoretically, he
Oh, I didn't
can
know
go
that. Is that right?
play.
Okay.
Yes,
I
I
didn't even know
checked
that.
in with the league office source
Nice.
on that,
Nice
and
job.
so that's probably a sort of a reason why he's back. They did the other safety, Marquise Blair, but we know Shashere is a good special teamer, and it's smart for the Eagles to look ahead and say, hey, we already got injuries here. We're expecting C.J. Gardner-Johnson back at some point, and that'll put Reed back onto special teams, but you never know. There could be another injury. In fact, Maddox coming back, if he's able
Yeah.
to, should put Josiah Scott onto the special teams and help too. But always good to have more as you go into the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. No, that's interesting. I hadn't even gotten that far with our, our information. So, and they will be a playoff team because, folks, if they win on Sunday, they're in the playoffs.
Oh, you just jinxed them. You said they're going to play out. Now they're going to lose the next fight. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Giants have a couple of players with injuries too.
oh,
Yeah,
this is
yeah, more
crazy.
than a
All right.
couple.
All right, so let's try to get through this as quickly as we can, but unfortunately, it's like a
Yeah, why don't you
scroll.
start with like the IR players who you just know aren't
Okay,
going to
we'll
be
start
playing in the
yeah.
game.
This is why this is why I'm so amazed. So they were going to start the season with, well, not saying much, but Kenny Golladay, who's been a total bust as a free agent. One of the
Oh,
many gifts that Dave Gettleman, the former GM, sent them, which were should have been rejected. But Kenny Golladay, who they refused to play, they he's had an illness. He didn't play last week, but he will be available this week. It's just a matter of do they want to play him or not, despite their injury problems. So Golladay should play, but the IR guys, Wan'Dale Robinson, who finally had his breakout game of 100 yards and he tore his ACL in that game. He's done until next spring or summer. Sterling Shepard tore his ACL. He probably will not return to the team. He was on a 1-year deal. He also tore his Achilles in recent years. Poor guy. Aaron Robinson's been on IR since early in the season. He was one of their starting corners. And then the craziness of Xavier McKinney, who's one of the best safeties in the National Football League, busts up his hand in a ATV accident when he was away from the team, which got him on the NFI list, which means they don't really have to pay him. They don't know if he'll return this season. You can't make it up. And then Ben Bredesen, who was starting at guard, is on IR. They just started practicing him this week. It would be a good thing because they might be down 2 guards this week. We'll get into that in a second. So those are the IR guys. They have it's been like a match. They've been hurt all season. It has not gotten much better.
Right. It's amazing. Again, as you said before, they're 7-4-1, and some of these guys you just mentioned, Shepard, Robinson, Wan'Dale Robinson, McKinney, they've been out for a long, long time.
Yep.
So those are the guys that are just forget about it. They won't even be there. Some of their bigger players who are important also nursing injuries. We saw Saquon Barkley pop up on Thursday with a neck injury.
Yeah, this is not good. This is the craziest thing. I chart every single NFL injury. I have an Excel file, so I know I could look at this in like 30 seconds. I could tell how many times a team has listed a particular injury. The Giants have had 6 players with neck injuries so far this season.
Wow.
And it's all the last 5 weeks. I have no idea what the hell's going on. It's got Barkley's the latest. He's the 6th guy.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Williams, this is the second week that he's on the injury report with it. He's expected to play.
He did play last week, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Okay, so let me go through this. So Barkley's got the neck. He was limited. We don't know did he get hurt in practice? So did he have to stop? I don't know. We won't know until later today, but that's major. The line is 6.5. I was telling my friend Scott Farrell on Sports Grid Thursday, if Barkley doesn't play, the Eagles are easily a 10-point favorite, if not more. That's how much he means to them having any chance to win.
Yeah, the line's up to 7 now, by the way, on Bet Rivers app.
Oh, okay. My line probably would be 11 or 12, and we'll see if the rain is. The rain probably would help the Giants. But Shane Lemieux, who he could start if he's healthy, but it doesn't look good. He's got a toe injury. He missed last week's game. Josh Zudu, who's I think like a 4th-round pick who they absolutely love. He's got a neck injury. He hasn't worked this week. He's been a good story for them. I know they're very high on him out of North Carolina, could play right tackle and guard.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, who else might not play? Or Dory Jackson's not going to play. He's got an MCL sprain. He's not practiced.
They are beat up in the secondary.
There's
No
more.
Aaron Robinson. Adoree
Yep.
Jackson probably not going to play. Keep
Nope.
going.
Darnay Holmes has a shoulder injury. He missed last week.
Good player.
And Nick McLeod, who so we'd said prior to last week's game that the Eagles were going to they were going to go after Dennis Daly, and oh my God, Dennis Daly was the left tackle for the Titans, and he did so badly that Mike Vrabel was asked Monday if he's still going to be starting.
Oh my God, that's right.
So
All
here's the
right.
guy. I'm going to give you the guy. This one I dug deep for with a very good league source. He goes, if Nick McLeod's on the field, Philly's got to go after him. Like, I know a little bit about Nick McLeod. He was with I think Buffalo maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he got claimed off waivers. He goes, he's tall, he's thin, he's not a great player. He wasn't drafted last year, but he's one of like 7 former Bills that are on this team.
Mm-hmm.
GM is Joe Shane, who was the personnel director for the Bills.
Right.
He played a ton last week, Nick McLeod, and this is a guy that if you're the Eagles, if he plays and then the weather holds up, you're going to go after. They play a lot of corner. In fact, the D coordinator Wink Martindale, he tries to muck it up with a lot of defensive backs to try to take away area. They play a ton of zone. They try to take away areas of the field. Play a lot of zone. They'll double guys, but you could throw against this team. They don't cover. They're not very good with all these injuries. Fabian Moreau starting. He's healthy. Fabian Moreau, you might remember him from Washington and Atlanta.
Yeah, he's been around forever now. Yeah.
So as you said, they got a lot of injuries. They got a lot of problems. I can't wait to get to the matches. We got a lot of stuff here, but they're in trouble here. Man, I hope it doesn't rain. Right now, it's just to rain the entire game. But look, forecast could change in the next 48 hours.
Adam, there's 4 guaranteed things in life. 3 guaranteed. They say death, taxes, and rain when the Eagles play at MetLife Stadium. It's every.
Was it last year too?
I think it did. At least in the pregame, it wasn't. I don't think it was the greatest day in the world. But like I feel like every time they play at MetLife, it's raining. So it was like that when I was on the beat. It's just whatever.
I wrote the game story for FoxSports.com in 2010, the Miracle in the Meadowlands too. It definitely didn't rain that day.
Yeah. All right. So basically, for the Giants, though, they're looking at 4/5 of their secondary being backups. Right? They're without Adoree Jackson, Darnay Holmes, and Aaron Robinson. That's their 3 corners.
Well, technically Holmes could play, but here's what they're looking at. They have this kid Gilbert, who was a practice squad corner. He started last week with Moreau is more. If a team has their druthers, Moreau's your 4th corner, not a starter.
Right.
Julian Love's a start, and Tony Jefferson, who's been around forever. He's had a lot of injuries. He was added off their practice squad. They're just there. He went with despite that. Wink went with a ton of DBs last week. We'll get into the matchups, but yeah, to me, man, this is a game here. If the weather holds up, I'm coming out throwing. We said last week we thought the Eagles would throw. We didn't expect like that. That was insane. That's what, I know the Giants are bad against the run. I get it, but the Giants have issues on defense in terms of personnel in the back end. Mm-hmm. Just how do the Eagles want to do this thing? As we've learned, if they figure they want to run, they'll run. Giants giving up about $165 over the last 3 games, 141 for the season per game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, though they're talented up front, it's kind of weird, but they get gashed, but you don't have to come out running. The Eagles typically don't, unless it's so good. They'll have 4 or 5 runs that are so huge they might stick with it. But to me, I'm going after the secondary, but we'll see what happens.
I'm with you, and especially since as we get into the matchups here, 2 macro things about the Giants because of these injuries. I imagine they have been struggling compared to their season numbers in both rushing defense, which they've been not great all year, and also pass defense. Their pass defense actually started off very good, but over the last 3 or 4 games, it has not been as good statistically. And we just probably gave you a reason why with their secondary in shambles as it is. Let us start with the Eagles offense against the Giants defense. Of course, the Giants are a team that you can run on. And over their last 3 games, they've been giving up even more than normal. It went from 141 to 164 yards. And here's what's mind-boggling to me, Adam. You talked about Wink Martindale. He does what he does, apparently, because the Giants are the leading team in blitz percentage in the NFL. They blitz more than anybody.
And they do every year, wherever he coaches, they do every
Wherever he
year.
coaches, they do it right. And even with all these injuries in secondary, they still
He
blitz
doesn't
and they
care.
play
Yep.
the most amount of man defense, obviously, which usually
Yep.
goes in line with
Yep.
blitzing. And you look at the Eagles' numbers against man this year, and you know that they're struggling. The Giants got these injuries in their secondary, and it's hard not to think the Eagles can pick their poison here because the Giants are also bad at run defense too.
One thing, so according to someone who's worked with Wink, he said the first thing he brings up in their meeting, in the personnel meeting, is, okay, how are we going to break down the protection? He blitzes he doesn't do, like, for instance, Aaron Glenn was just blitzing like crazy, and he didn't have remember against the Eagles, now he caught them pretty well, but the Eagles still absolutely torched them. Aaron Glenn was struggling badly. So what the Lions did after the break is they didn't blitz as much, and they're way more disciplined. They were doing it with purpose, where they weren't really earlier in the season. Wink starts, he's like, okay, we're going to find a weak link on their offensive line, according to this person who worked with Wink in the past. And he said, this is what we do. We're going to find one through tape study. Maybe their pro staff finds it on the Eagles staff. Maybe we think Mailata because he's new to the playing football. Maybe he won't be able to sort out everything that Wink's going to do, but they're going to find one. And this is going to be fascinating because it's actually in a good way for the Eagles, because if not that they want to struggle or have any issues, but if they find a weakness, other teams will see this if they from this tape from this coming Sunday. But I'm telling you, this guy knows what the hell he's talking about. And I was like, okay. He goes, that's the first thing Wink would bring up. I'm like, all right.
Yes, he is a protection breakdown master. Now the question is that you just asked, I think it's the most pertinent question to determine the outcome of the game. There's no question in my mind that Wink Martindale will, as you just said, he'll figure out one scheme or another that will give the Eagles offensive line confusion, because we've seen that happen to the Eagles offensive line throughout the year. The question is, will he have figured it out before Jalen Hurts throws 3 touchdown bombs to A.J. Brown? If you're figuring it out down 21-0, it's not really figuring it out.
Funny, Wink called me, say he looked like Terrell Owens out there. That was great.
Yeah, he did.
He's an incredible football coach.
Incredible
football coach. I would say this, because you talk about heavy man coverage. This is what this guy believes in. They could run on because they get gashed. Mm-hmm. It's not it's funny. It's not, if you look at their numbers, it's not one particular running back. It's like the whole group. Because Brian Robinson had a good game against him, but Gibson had some good runs. Mm-hmm. But against the pass, Jahan Dotson scored last week. McLaurin got them badly. Oh, by the way, they really struggle against slot receivers. That's another thing I was told. Yeah. They don't identify well. They attack the middle of these receivers. CeeDee Lamb crushed them.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. When you blitz that much, you ask your interior guys to hold man on man, and that's difficult, when you're a slot.
Yeah, even Chris Moore got them, who's a special teams player. Did he score against the Eagles? I can't remember.
Chris Moore?
Yeah.
He did, from Arizona, right?
He for the he's with the Texans.
Oh yeah, he did score. He scored on like that little swing screen, right? And then he took it for a.
He's playing slot for them now. He's really a special. He used to be with Baltimore, but now I know the Eagles. Quez Watkins is not your typical slot, but he obviously he lines up there a lot. Mm-hmm. So I just love these matchups for the Eagles. They just, as you said, they have to identify who's coming and what Wink's trying to do. They know they're going to blitz, but they have to communicate well. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to talk to Trey after this game, because Trey Thomas is on our post game show, and he's a master at figuring this stuff out. Yeah. So now obviously if the Eagles are not successful, it'll be a little bit easier for Trey, but I'm sure they're going to have some success. You would think Eagles may have the best offensive line in football, but this is Wink. This is.
I mean, go look at. We'll get into it more on the pregame show, because it could be. We could just inundate everybody with stats, but we've got enough evidence statistically to show you that Jalen Hurts has excelled both against man coverage this year and against the blitz this year. So there's a little bit of kryptonite of a situation here. Not a kryptonite. I mean, Jalen Hurts is the kryptonite for what Martindale likes to do, or at least he has been this year. So it'll be kind of fascinating to see. Wink's going to be Wink. He's going to blitz. It'll just be fascinating to see how he manages his blitz schemes to counteract what Jalen Hurts does well. For example, Patrick Graham was the Giants' defensive coordinator last year, and he was like the Jalen Hurts kryptonite. He played a lot of man free, and he would bring that safety down, the one that he would bring into the box. He would blitz that safety off the right edge to force Hurts to the left a lot, and we saw Hurts make a lot of off balance throws and get out of his comfort zone. Especially in that first game where he had 3 picks. I think Jalen will be happy to see somebody not named Patrick Graham here up at MetLife Stadium, and even though as good as Wink Martindale is, it's for whatever reason Patrick Graham just did a good job against the Eagles.
Great job, but I would say it's all true. But man, Hurts is just so different. He's like a different person as a quarterback.
Oh, totally different. Yeah,
he was so bad in that Eagles Giants game. You and I were talking about in the last show with the stork Mike. Mike, what's the kid from North Carolina? The tall blonde hair guy's in the media now. What's the quarterback's name?
Glennon.
Mike Glennon. Thank you.
Yes.
Mike Glennon, and then your guy, was it Brom? Was Brom the quarterback?
Fromm.
Oh, Fromm. Yeah, Jake Fromm. Not Geoff Brom. Jake Fromm. It might have been. I can't think of a worse game quarterback wise for 2 quarterbacks, or just 3. Sorry, 3.
Mm-hmm.
It was painful, as you detailed on our last show. Painful to watch that game. We had to watch it because that's what we have to do, but it was bad.
Yeah. Do you remember last year? What strange Eagle pass catcher caught a touchdown against the Giants in the second game? The Giants won 34-10. That's the game Jake Fromm started and Mike Glennon relieved him. 34-10 looks like a blowout, but this game was 3-3 at halftime. It was only 10-3 in the third. Then Elliott got a field goal, 13-3. The Eagles started to pull away, but somebody caught a touchdown in the fourth quarter at him that ordinarily does not catch touchdowns.
Someone for the Eagles scored last year?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
He has 1 career touchdown catch. He has 1 career catch.
Is the guy still in the Eagles?
Yes, he has 1 career catch.
Oh! Why don't I? I'm drawing a blank. I don't know.
It's not Todd Harriman's.
Oh, what? Brandon Brooks did it last year?
Nope. No, I think Brandon was retired already last year.
Go ahead. I have no idea.
Lane Johnson caught a touchdown pass last year.
Even didn't Evan Mathis score?
Oh, that's a great question. Did Evan Mathis catch? I know Harriman's did. I don't remember.
Lane being a former quarterback and a former tight end, how the heck did he never have a touchdown catch, a tackle eligible? Jeez,
a good point. I'm still waiting for Mailata to get a touchdown run.
Mailata would be so great. I love it. Oh, rugby player, come on! He had to carry the football, right? It's a good point.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. So that was just a good stat. But yeah, I was just bringing up how last year the Eagles and Giants games were just eyesore and ugly to watch.
Look, because Wink is going to muck it up if he play. Now, obviously, he put on what he did on tape, playing all those defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
So now what? And I know they're all backups. If Jason Pinnock, Jason Pinnock was claimed off the Jets.
Jason Pinnock,
he's just like fifth safety. He started last week. So Wink and somehow they tied. The Eagles might have the best. It's funny. The Eagles might have the best running game and passing game in the NFL. If this weather holds up, I cannot wait to see what their offensive staff has, because it's a communal effort, as we understand it. They got a lot of people have a lot of input. Cannot wait to see what they come out against Wink. This is going to be great. I want to see a non-mucked up game with the rain, man. Can we have this hold off?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
It should be again another. I would think that this would be a good game for Miles Sanders. This is again, the Giants are not a very good run defense. They've been worse over the last 3 games. They have good. Here's the weird thing, though, and I can't. We'll have to talk to Greg on schematics. They have good defensive linemen, and one of their best players this year is a 340-pound D lineman named Dexter Lawrence, and he is having a great year. He's also been a good pass rusher. I think he leads them with 6.5 sacks. So it almost, it's not always on the D line. It could be bad tackling at the linebacker and secondary level.
Well, they got Jalen Smith, he shouldn't really be starting. He's done a decent job, though. He's done okay, but I don't know if you'd want him to be a start at this point of his career. Jihad Ward, you might remember him. He's from Philly.
Temple kid.
No, Jihad Ward went to Illinois, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, Illinois. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
I just remember the colors were orange, whether it was Syracuse or Illinois. Right. I remember Jihad at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, he's played everywhere. He's with the Raiders for a little while,
Yeah,
right?
but he's a
He's with
wink guy from Baltimore. Yep, yep.
yeah, that's right.
No, he was with the Raiders. You're absolutely right. Jimenez is back. Jimenez had an injury earlier this season and last year. He's back. He's
Yep.
been back for weeks. And then they got Ojulari back from his calf injury. He was a factor last week. So you're right. They got talent in the front seven. I'm surprised with a 34 front like this. Most 34s are pretty good against the run. Even the Steelers, who were terrible against the run last year, fixed their run defense. They're actually one of the best.
Yeah. Now I think Kayvon Thibodeau, their first round pick, what, 5th overall was it? I
I've
believe.
told mixed results. I've heard mixed.
Yeah,
results.
he only has 2 sacks. Doesn't have a whole lot of pressures and all the hits. So
Yeah, the knock on him, stiff. He's that was the tape stuff was coming
yep.
out. A bunch of people I spoke to said that they all seem to agree. Not as fluid in his lower body as you would think for a guy who looked on like he's long. You know, these guys usually could bend and stuff, but he's not as fluid as you might think.
Just Davion Clowney light, sort of like that
That's
mold of
Greg,
powerful pass rusher, but not bendy.
Greg's had, ask him that on our show Sunday because Greg has had some very strong takes. He hates calling them takes. He calls them again
Observations, tape observations. Yeah,
right. Just from both players, and I'll see what he has to say about that.
Yeah. Okay. But all of us, Greg liked him. You liked him. I liked him last year. Talking about Azeez Ojulari.
Oh, he's good player.
And he was hurt a little bit, but he's one of those guys. And I think Mailata is going to have to really be on this. But Ojulari is not very tall, but he has really long arms, and he can edge it well. And sometimes I don't know. Sometimes Mailata, as Trey Thomas has pointed out to us, doesn't get the punch first and lets a guy he tries to catch. He always talks about double underhand hooks, and that's a tough thing right there against a guy like Ojulari because his arms are long. He has a really long wingspan for a guy who's not like 6'5", 6'6".
And
so he's a guy that you gotta watch. Yep.
Long arms are huge for outside linebackers. If you're 34, 33 and a half, 34, 35, that's what clubs look for. That they've got a very good rotation at outside linebacker. This is an interesting game because the Giants are a pretty competitive team. They're certainly offensively challenged. We're going to get into that in a couple minutes here. Mm-hmm. But I'm like the Tennessee game. I don't know why it was. I shouldn't have been. In terms of game picks, I was like, could this be the game where we don't get it right, where the team upsets the Eagles in Philly? Obviously, that was wrong. But what was it? Could this be the game? Because you just brought up what happened last year. I get it's a different defense. I get it's a different play caller. I don't. They're not going to overlook them. The Eagles need this game. So do the Giants and this NFC East game. But these NFC East games take a life of their own sometimes. Sometimes you go, "What in the world happened here?"
Yes, they do. They absolutely do. I mean, we didn't even think the Eagles were going to lose to the Giants that first time around last year. So it's just strange. All right, the only one other offensive sort of line D-line matchup I want to highlight, just because I mentioned his name before. This is the type of guy that does give Jason Kelce some issues. Dexter Lawrence being a 340-pounder, Jason likes to be able to, engage that initial block and then kick out into the second level. Well, Lawrence is the type of guy who makes that very difficult because when you're engaging someone who's 40 pounds heavier than you, it's not easy. And he's strong. I mean, this was a good play. This is one of the few Gettleman picks that really has worked out so far.
No, it
was a good pick.
I've taken my shots at Gettleman, just told the truth about where I just thought he just completely blew it. But he's a stud, no question about it. Leonard Williams is there, that's funny because now Leonard Williams did not get off to a good start with the Giants. Then he became a stud, and that actually turned out to be a good trade. People criticize him for.
Yep.
The X-Man is a holdover as well. Now they're weak at corner. That's why it's like whatever the weather will dictate it. If it's going to be like the Jaguars game, they're going to have to run the ball the whole game, most of it, unless they get behind. But the fact of the matter is, this is a fun chess match against Sirianni. I know he's not calling the plays, but he's involved. And Steichen and Petula, who's very involved as their pass game coordinator. And Brian Johnson, the quarterback's coach, is involved. And obviously Jalen Hurts. So, and Jeff Stoutland, too, by the way. Stout's in it. He's the run game coordinator. And Jamal Singleton. This is maybe not quite the coach's game as last week, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right. We will move on to the Eagles defense against the Giants offense. First, we're going to let you know about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. Make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com, and on Twitter, they're at PHLSportsNation. Let's pause real quick for another word from our other great sponsors, including our friends, our pals, our amigos at Sky Motor Cars. And if you hop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal.
And it's Christmas time coming up, or Hanukkah time. Holidays are coming up. You could go to their website, skymotorcars.com, and you could order them online, and they deliver, like Marcus Peters got, and Nakobe Dean, by the way. Nakobe Dean, of course.
Just about to mention that.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yep. And a lot of NFL players get their cars at Sky Motor Cars at Westchester.
Right. And if you have visited our Twitter account at Inside Birds on Twitter, you'll know we're giving away a Nakobe Dean signed football, courtesy, I believe. Is Sky Motor Cars involved in
that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's what I thought. So you just go to the Twitter account at Inside Birds. It's our pinned tweet. And we're giving away a Nakobe Dean football. If you want to enter the contest, you number 1 is a like, number 2 is a retweet, number 3 is a follow. You got to like the tweet, retweet it, and then follow at Inside Birds and at Sky Motor Cars. And then we're going to select a winner on December 12th. That's just a few days away. All right. So a big giveaway there, courtesy of Inside the Birds and Sky Motor Cars. All right, let's move on to the Eagles defense versus this Giants offense. Now, you're right. I think the weather will dictate some of this, Adam, but the Giants are going to try to run the ball anyway. I mean, that's
hell yeah.
I mean,
there's
when you have no outside perimeter weaponry, you might as well.
Well, they have one guy who could run. He could fly. Darius Slayton. I mean, in fact, the funny thing about Darius Slayton is they put him up. Anyone who wanted him could have had him before the season started. Just nobody wanted him. And talk about, thank goodness, if you're a Giants fan, that they didn't trade him or cut him. Mm-hmm. And things have gotten so bad. Let me just give you an idea. Isaiah Hodgins was claimed off waivers from the Bills. Shocker. Like 4 weeks ago, he's starting now. I mean, this is where they're at. And
the legend of David Sills just didn't pan out.
He's still there, but they won't. He only really plays. I think he had one snap on offense last week. Another former Eagle was playing a lot earlier this season, and then I don't know why he's not much of a factor. Is Marcus Johnson? Remember Marcus Johnson?
Like a former Eagle, former Seahawk, former Raider. I think he's been around the block a little bit there.
Colts, Titans,
that's right.
Niners. Yeah, I lost track, but he can run a little bit. But Hodges is a tall possession receiver. He does not run very well. He was claimed off waivers, and again, he's tall. He's starting. Richie James. Richie James is going to be their slot receiver. He was their backup slot to Wan'Dale Robinson. He's also their special teams returner.
Right.
But they're all, if you have your druthers, they're all backup receivers. And Galladay, I mean, he'll be available. Whether the coaches want to play him or not, we'll have to see. With his $18 million he's making this season. They're just in a bad way at the receiver position, and you nailed it. They're going to try to run the heck out of it. Now, with Barkley, Greg Cosell had a great point. We were doing the Fantasy Points pod on or live stream on Thursday night. He's like, it's like Barkley's not really a sustainer. He's explosive. He's not a guy you could grind a lot of carries out with. He's not that type of guy.
Right. And
they don't have that guy. Matt Breed is their backup third down back and main backup to Barkley. And Gary Brightwell was playing a little bit earlier this season. It was a sixth rounder, but he's not really a factor. So it's kind of hard for them. They're just offensively challenged. It's one of these things you scratch your head like, how did they win that game?
Yeah,
they don't do anything on offense. Like, how are they doing this?
I know people I've spoke to feel like they're very creative, and you attribute this to both Mike Kafka, their offensive coordinator and play caller, and Brian Dable being an offensive mind. They don't just see the Titans ran the ball up. That's what they do. They run the ball up the gut on you. That's what they tried to do. The Eagles knew it was coming. A little bit easier to stop when you know something's coming. It's just not easy to stop Derrick Henry because you know he's coming, but he can run all over you. But the Eagles did do a good job of it. You saw what the Packers did with their two running backs. They had diversity to their running game. Outside zone, inside zone, ISOs, delays, traps, all of that. And that's what I think you more see with the Giants offense with their running game. They don't just hand the ball off and try to do inside zone all day or power with like pulling a tight end up the middle to give Saquon Barkley a blocker. They're a lot more diversified, and I think that's probably been the biggest key to their season, to be able to score just enough points to win 7 games. Because, like you mentioned, they're not they can be explosive. There are times where Saquon Barkley adds some explosion to their running game, but overall, they're not an explosive offense. They just have to figure out ways to ball control and kind of like the way Washington beat the Eagles, just ball control and pick up little yards here and there. They throw to Saquon Barkley a little bit. They've got 3 tight ends that I think they use all 3, including your former neighbor there, Chris Myrick from
Cheltenham.
From Cheltenham. I'm sorry, Cheltenham. Yes.
Yeah. Daniel Bellinger's back from his eye socket injury. Nick Vannett, who's more of a wide tight end now. And Lawrence Cager, you might remember Lawrence Cager, who used to be with the Giants, who's now a tight end. He used to be a receiver. Mm-hmm. But their run game concepts are really good. The O-line coach his name is Bobby Johnson. He used to be with Buffalo and Indy. He coached with Sirianni in Indy. He puts together the run game stuff. Kafka, the passing game, and the 3 of them together, Dayball, Kafka, and the O-line coach do a phenomenal job of putting together. It's just, but again, though, my point is this: I just don't know how with this talent they keep winning. Though that's the thing. It's like they got all you mentioned all the injuries they have in the secondary. They're bad at receiver. Though Slayton is a shot play guy. They will do this. They will take, if they can protect, they'll try to get him a shot play, and we'll see what the weather looks like.
Right.
They're weak on the interior of their offensive line, and Evan Neal just came back from his MCL sprain. Andrew Thomas is really good. Their left tackle. They just get by with Glowinski and Feliciano at center and guard.
Yep. That's why they're a running team, because those guys are runners, run blockers, road grader types. Yep.
So that's pretty much it. It obviously overall the matchups, Eagles have a much better roster. It just, let's see how it plays out. That Hurts is playing at elite level. If the Eagles protect, they're going to score, unless the rain is so crazy that it makes it detrimental to throw. That's okay. You can run on the Giants, as you said earlier. They've run on badly lately. And again, it's not just one running back. Some teams are running 2 guys at him. So I'm just fascinated to see, because this could be one of those meat grinder games where my friend Paul Allen calls it the voice of the Vikings, the meat grinder. It's like when 2 teams just run the ball a lot. It's a low scoring game. What's the over under for this? Isn't it kind of low? Am I mistaken?
It's only 44.5. It's been, I feel like in the last 3 games for the Eagles have been at 44.5.
Is it that high? Is it really that high? Okay.
It's that high. 44.5. Well, I think that's because they think the Eagles are going to score at least 30 points.
Yeah. No, it's 45.5. Wow, with the rain and everything. Okay. No, it's funny. The Giants will somehow the Giants score. 1 week they'll score 20. Next week they might score 23. You're like, what are they doing? Like, how are they doing this?
Right.
Anyway.
Right. All right. So, by the way, shout out to Richie James, right? The Giants receiver who's getting a lot of slot time, because, we talked about this in the offseason. He was, the Eagles had him on their radar because he was a good special teams player and returner from San Francisco. And as we understood it, the contract offers were similar, but Richie James went to the Giants because he thought he was going to have more opportunity to play there. And that was baffling to us at the time, because at the time the Giants had Sterling Shepard, who was going to come back, right? And they had Kadarius Toney that they drafted in the first round. And they had Darius Slayton, and they had Kenny Galladay, who we thought you paid him all that money, you're going to try to make it work. Like, we didn't see any opportunity to him to be anything other than the 5th receiver there. So we were wondering what opportunity he saw, and lo and behold, he called that. He saw that situation perfectly, because he would not be in the top 3 or 4 for the Eagles either. So
he would only be a special teams player. He would never play receiver.
Right. He'd be Britton Covey.
Yeah, I mean, you might put him in for a shot play. He can run. He had that crazy game 2 years ago, filling in for Ayuk with the Niners. I believe Ayuk. This is when the craziness of the pandemic. Then, so Ayuk, there was like a false positive on Ayuk's testing. So he couldn't get clear enough time. And Richie James, I think, had 180 yards. And I remember for fantasy, people were so pissed off. That would have been Ayuk's yards. But it is what it is.
All right, we haven't actually mentioned this guy by name yet, so we can't stop this podcast without doing it. But we haven't really talked about Daniel Jones. and the kind of year that he's having. I mean, his completion percentage is up. His interceptions are way down. This offense has definitely been better for him. His QB rating's up, passer ratings, everything's up for him. He just doesn't have a ton of touchdowns. He's only had like 11 touchdowns in 12 games. Obviously not a
He's
lot.
running, man. He's running.
But he is running, and the Eagles are a team that he has ran all over in the past. Now, this is not the Jim Schwartz wide 9 defense. So exactly. I don't even know what to expect. And I don't even remember last year if he had a big running game against it. I got to go back and look.
To me, I think if I'm the Eagles, okay, this is actually brings up a great discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, if I am Jonathan Gannon and my staff, I'm going to play this offense like I played Derrick Henry. See if you can throw the football against us, because you're not going to run it.
Right.
That's what I would do. Because the Eagles clearly came in, and obviously the players, I think Avonte talked about it. Mm-hmm. We also talked about it on our show, our pregame show. Clearly the players were sick and tired of hearing about Derrick Henry, and they sure showed it. they got after it, and they just destroy the Titans offensive line. The Giants offensive line is better, but they're obviously much better at tackle, but they're not that good in the interior. I just take the same tack. I know Jones has got great straight line speed. Good. Just make sure you have him identified. They know the type of runs that he has. He's not like elusive like Hurts is. And then you got Barkley. And I know Barkley, as you outlined, they could use him in a screen game. We talked. Aaron Jones got them. You got to be careful with Barkley. He could catch the football in the backfield. So, but I want Daniel Jones to beat me with his arm. If he can do it, so be it. But he shouldn't be able to do it because, again, the Giants
like with what?
Right. I mean, Slayton's a shot play guy, but you know
how they play. The Eagles play defense. They're not going to allow Slayton to get 20 yards downfield.
They're going to play back anyway. Right. So I'm going to make him beat us. That's what I would
By the way, Brandon Graham, to your point, he is. I love Brandon. We have a great relationship. Ever since he was drafted, even when we're not down there every day like the reporters, but every time I see him, we joke around. Yeah. But he has been for years now the ringleader of the "you guys said we couldn't" narrative that nobody actually ever said. Like every time they win a game, a big game, he comes into the locker room with his helmet in his hand and he's laughing. Oh, you guys picked against us. You guys said we didn't do it. So he's coming in saying, "Oh, you guys all thought we were going to fall to Derrick Henry." I'm like, nobody picked the Titans to. I mean, I didn't pick the Titans to win. You didn't pick the Titans to win. I didn't see a whole lot of people picking the Titans to win. And if everybody was saying Derrick Henry is someone who's they're going to have a good rushing game or somebody you got to watch for. Well, that's because he's freaking Derrick Henry.
I know.
I mean,
and by the way,
do a show. Hold on, you can't do a pregame analysis. You can't be in the media and talk about a Titans game against the team you cover without talking about what Derrick Henry has done. So I think the whole idea that he spread to the team that the media was against them, everybody was against them, was a little bit more motivational on his end than it was anything the media did.
Yeah. Speaking of BG, go to the Eagles Twitter or you go to the website or the app and see the 12-minute piece on him for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. You'll need some tissues. It got to me. It's
well deserved.
We all know how great of a human being he is, but for folks who are not super familiar with him, you should watch it anyway. It's just you see how special the person is. I was lucky enough to be around him at there's a golf tournament for cancer research for Mid-Penn Bank, and Brandon and I go there, and I think Kelsey usually shows up, but I got to spend a lot of time with him at that event, and he's just, I mean, I don't know of a player that's been so positive that you feel better about yourself when you're around him. You feel like you're in such a good mood. He helps you get in a good mood. I mean, how many people in life do you meet are like that? It's crazy.
No, he's a great guy. He's
Special
really
person.
An unbelievable guy. He's a Philadelphia treasure, no doubt about it. But yeah, I think he likes to stir. I think he likes to stir up narratives that don't exist just to motivate the team.
And on this video, he gives D Gun. He and D Gun are pretty close, and Eagles had him do the MC for it. It's amazing. And Brandon had to take that little shit. I think he actually said it. Oh, he goes, D-Gun, it's all good. But I think, he said something like he took some kind of dig at him. I can't remember, on the picking against us kind of thing.
Yeah, I swear, if you ask Brandon, he probably thinks the media has picked the Eagles to be 0-17 this year. He just says it after every. Oh, you guys didn't pick us
If
to
he
win.
comes out with an underdog mask, I'm done.
Yeah, seriously. All right, I think we've now. Oh yeah, so Daniel Jones, by the way, real quick, just get back to him. Last year, remember he only played against them once, so it was 9 rushes for 30 yards. 9 rushes, pretty
A lot.
big attempt. That was tied for his most ever. But in 2020, he had 9 rushes for 64 yards and a touchdown. I think we all
And
remember. And then
yeah.
you remember the first game, he had 92 rushing yards where he would have
And
had a
he
touchdown,
fell.
but he fell. The ghost, the turf monster tackled him.
You have to hear Bob Papa, the voice of the Giants. His call is the funniest thing. It's just because he called it as he was falling down. It's just kind of not that he knew it was going to happen, but it's just the way they called it was so classically great.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So in closing, like, what do you think of Daniel Jones as a quarterback?
He's frustrating because he's got really good arm. He's tall. He's got good size.
Mm-hmm.
He's got talent. He'll take a shot and then he'll be tentative. Now, yeah, look, the other problem is, you give Hurts the talent around him, and he's pretty special this season, right?
Right. I think that's a good point. Like, I would just like to see, from an objective standpoint here, if he had like 3 weapons, something other than just Saquon Barkley, because he's not throwing a lot of interceptions. He's accurate even with this. 66%. He doesn't fumble a whole lot this year. He used to. I don't think this year he's got like a truckload of lost fumbles. I have to go back and look at that. But just 3. So like, I don't know. Like, it seems like he's a guy who could probably take a big step forward if this organization could ever get it right with some, tight ends and wide receivers around him.
Even John Mara, part of the ownership group of the Giants, said it, that they keep screwing him up.
Yeah.
By changing, you look at all the coaches that he's had.
Right.
Pat Shermer, right? Pat Shermer was the head coach.
Yep.
I'm losing. Joe Judge, obviously. So whatever the offense that was, and this is yet another offense, and I'd have to go back. Maybe there's another offense before that. So yeah, you keep screwing it up. You keep changing things. Yeah, it's not good. So he's kind of a soft-spoken kid, and I know that it's been a challenge for them to get him to get what they want done. But as you said, he also needs help around him, and he's playing better. He's not turning it over, and he could run a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, they just have not surrounded him. And I understand they had a terrible cap problem. But next year, if I'm a Giants fan, everything, and I mean everything, is to help whoever their quarterback is, just like the Eagles did to this offseason to help Hurts out. And boy, did they in a big way.
All right. Why don't we do what we do worst here at the end? Actually, we've been doing it pretty good this year. And that is, pick this game and the score here, courtesy of our friends at Bet Rivers. You can check them out at betrivers.com, or you can just use the Bet Rivers app. And right now, as I said, the Eagles are 7-point favorites, over under of 44.5. Adam, who's winning this game and by what?
I've got it 23-16 Eagles.
23-16. So
Eagles.
You have a push and an under. Right?
Yeah,
they win by 7, so that makes it a push. Yeah. You have. All right, I am going to take the Eagles winning 27-13. So I'm also taking the under, but I think they're going to cover. And I actually think the only reason I'm picking it to be that close, 14 points, is because A, it might, as you talked about, the rain might interfere, and B, because of that weirdness that when these two teams play each other, it doesn't seem to go according to Hoyle all the time. Otherwise, like if you took the Giants and put them in the NFC West and they just happen to be playing today, I feel like the Eagles would win this game by 20 points. But we'll see.
Without Goddard, and by the way, Goddard's eligible, as we were saying earlier, to be back for Week 15. You saw the Colts game. This staff had to figure it out. It was a struggle. It was obviously much better, but they didn't need him in Week 12 because they ran the hell out of it. And last week they did find the tight ends 4 for 60. That I thought that was really important. Jack Stoll had a really nice game, and Calcaterra had his crosser for whatever it was, 20 yards or something. So that's another part of this offense. Again, if the weather holds up, I'd love to see them because the Giants are off secondary challenged. that's somewhere where the Eagles could absolutely take advantage of it if they can protect.
If they can protect, which they usually do pretty well.
Yep.
Every once in a while, I'll slip up here and there, but for the most part, pretty well. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.